Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary, for being here today. We actually met in San Diego when you came to speak to our Chamber of Commerce a few years ago. I represent San Diego, which, as you know from your visit, is a large innovation economy. And I want to just express a little concern about some of the things I've seen out of the budget. Maybe you've encouraged me by calling it a doorstop, but I still like to get your personal feelings on it. Specifically with respect to the Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy, or ARPA-E. This single program, since it was created in 2009, has provided $1.5 billion in funding to more than 580 projects that have led to the formation of 56 new companies, spawned 68 projects with other government agencies, including the Department of Defense, and attracted more than $1.8 billion in additional private sector investment. And you indicated up front that innovation in energy was one of your goals. Why on earth would we be talking about zeroing this out like the budget did?
Mr. Peters, as I said in my remarks in front of the Senate, I didn't write this budget, and my job is to defend it, which from time to time is counter to what I think is good public policy. This happens to be one of those. As the governor of the state of Texas, and President Trump, or then President-elect Trump, knew that when he asked me to take this job. My history of working with the state of Texas being involved with emerging technologies, and having a very thoughtful process in place with experts that looked at these technologies and then recommending to the governor and lieutenant governor and the speaker, in the case of ours, whether or not these were places that we wanted to invest to try to bring those technologies to commercialization. I still think that's a really good and thoughtful and an appropriate thing for government to do, whether it's the state level or the federal level. So let me finish by saying that this is a good conversation to have. Do we have it structured properly? Congressman Borton's going to be working on the re-arg over at the department. I think we can find some solutions where we continue to push forward innovation, where the government can identify new technologies, new innovation that can make a real difference in people's lives, and help fund that. You know, is it exactly like the structure of ARPA-E? You know, I'll engage in the conversation and the debate, but I think it's important for us to promote innovation. I give you a good example. DARPA was created to make sure that America never gets surprised again in a conflict. And they've thrown a lot of jello at the wall over there, and some really good, extraordinary things that come out of it. Did they bat 1,000? No. But there's not a bank in America that can say every one of our loans we made was a good loan and we got our money back.
Mr. Secretary, I got to get into another question.
Be smart about it, have the right kind of oversight, and I think that the President would be supportive of having the right kind of oversight and having the right focus.
Well, I think what you said is very sensible. I appreciate your comparison to DARPA-E. That was the model. I mean, DARPA, that was the model for ARPA-E. And when the utilities came in here and I asked them specifically, what's the federal role in securing, in energy security in terms of grid efficiency and reliability, they said research. So I would just like I'd like to offer that as something that you can advocate for within the administration.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Peters, and that's happening at the Idaho National Lab. We've got that grid out there. We can go break things and not have to worry about.
But, you know, we know that the more nimble stuff sometimes happens outside on the DARPA model, and ARPA-E is that. Let me just ask one other question about the all of the above energy strategy. What role does energy conservation play as part of creating a supply? And is that something we should subsidize if we're subsidizing other energy sources?
Subsidize. The answer in the broad sense is absolutely. Conservation plays a role. It's, you know, we've been able to make a difference. If you can put processes into place that save energy, that make it more efficient, then you certainly should do it. We can have the discussion, the debate about how you do that. I mean, that's really the devil's in the details about how you do that. But I do support the concept of conservation. It makes sense. and you know, how we do it. And one of the things that I learned as a governor is how do you incentivize people? We were able to clean up our air in Texas so much, partially by giving some tax credits to people for switching over from older, dirty burning diesel type engines to newer, more efficient ones, and that really helped on the fleets. So I think that rather than the subsidization that some people go, oh, you know, that's not government's role, there may be some thoughtful ways working with state and federal governments to come up with incentives to get people to change their...
My time is up, but
Yes,
some
sir.
people say those tax credits are subsidies too, so.